Over the past week, more than a dozen former pupils of Dulwich College have publicly accused Farage of, as teenagers, making racist and anti-Semitic remarks to them, including alleged statements like Hitler was right, gas them, and singing racist songs, making Nazi salutes and targeting Jewish and minority ethnic pupils. So it's not that these are observers, these are the victims speaking out, the worm that turned. The allegations come in the middle of a major investigation by leading newspapers and include testimony from former classmates and some teachers, though many contemporaries recall the events differently and recall Farage differently. Apparently, according to Farage, he's had a letter of support. Given his current stature as the leader of Reform UK and prominent national figure, these claims have serious consequences, not just personally, but for public trust, legitimacy, and what they signal about values in public life. Farage has denied ever directly abusing anybody. He claims he never intentionally targeted individuals on the basis of background. He argues that some comments made in the 1970s may now be judged differently, but that at the time they were banter in a playground, not motivated by hatred or malice. Try being on the receiving end, Mr. Farage. As part of his response, Farage cited letters from former classmates, including a Jewish pupil, who record him making macho, tongue-in-cheek schoolboy banter, sometimes offensive, but never with malice. That classmate, who doesn't seem to have been named, stated that they never heard him racially abuse anyone and argued that if he had done so, he would have been reported and punished. Farage framed the controversy as part of a question of shifting social norms. What might have been tolerated, albeit uncomfortably, in the 1970s would be unacceptable now. And he challenged media and public reaction as selective or hypocritical. Now, multiple former pupils provide detailed, consistent, and deeply disturbing accounts, including explicit anti-Semitic remarks, Nazi-style chants, mock gas chamber references, and other forms of racial harassment. Some former classmates describe the behavior as habitual, public, and not limited to isolated jokes or schoolyard banter. They recall repeated chanting, salutes, and a broader pattern of racist attitudes, behavior that far exceeds what could be dismissed as an awkward adolescent mischief. Critics argue that Farage's invocation of times of change doesn't address the core problem, whether he inflicted harm. Even if norms were different, acts like singing about gas chambers or praising Hitler, as recounted, are ethically and morally serious. The passage of time does not erase the testimony of witnesses, of victims. There's also concern over the lack of contrition and the ambiguous nature of Farage's denial. Phrases like, "I never directly abused anybody," or "I wouldn't have meant to hurt anybody," leave open the possibility he sent offensive things. Many feel that a clear, unequivocal apology and recognition of harm would be the minimum expected. More broadly, the defence based on a few supportive letters is a weak defence, and compared to the growing number of accusers, looks a little bit selective. As the number of alleged victims speaking out increases, the burden of proof, public accountability, and moral responsibility weigh more heavily. Expect to see this whole story explode, I suggest, in the Sunday newspapers. The allegations are not isolated to a single individual's memory. Dozens of classmates across different years, including Jewish pupils and pupils from minority ethnic backgrounds, some of whom have spoken publicly, recall similarly offensive behavior from Farage. Some former pupils say they themselves participated for peer pressure or cowardice, but now regret those actions. They call on Farage to at least acknowledge the harm, even if he claims not to recall or not to have meant offence. The scale of the testimony raises serious questions about whether this was schoolboy mischief or something more systematic, bullying and abuse targeted at minority students over time. For many, the term banter underplays or sanitizes what they experienced as hostility or hate. I was asked the other day, how should I pronounce the name Farage? I said, well, he's always said that it rhymes with garage. And I was then told that I mispronounced garage. So there we are. I don't know. I don't really care, actually, how Farage pronounced his name. if he's prepared to pronounce on other people in such a disdainful and unpleasant way, and not to acknowledge it, then I think he gets to own whatever pronunciation of his name that people choose to offer. So Farage. In the balance, and especially in the light of many first-hand accounts, the defence seems increasingly insufficient by Farage. While Farage's supporters may emphasise intent and context, youth, different norms, misaligned jokes, the consistency and the content of allegations suggests that serious racist behaviour may have occurred, and his reliance on a few supportive voices does not outweigh the growing chorus of credible, detailed testimony. Moreover, I think public office carries a responsibility not just for past innocence or guilt, but for moral leadership. He could easily draw a line, and not unlike the line that David Cameron used, that where he said we are entitled to a past, which I entirely agree with. I think people are entitled to a past. The problem with Farage's past is it seems to inform his present behaviour. And that is the key. If Farage was not tolerating of racism in others, as he clearly has been in, for example, the David Coburn case, then we would dismiss this. And I think rightly so. But unfortunately, Farage does tolerate racism in others and only acts against racism when the whistleblowing gets too loud. So at the moment, he needs to acknowledge harm, offer contrition, and demonstrate respect for victims. On that standard, the current response, equivocal denial, partial admissions couched in banter, and challenge to accusers, falls short of what is reasonable to expect from somebody who has his eye on number 10.